Hello students, in the online interactive session we are going to see about the first chapter of geography, resource and development. Remember student, this is very important chapter. First we will see what is the meaning of a resource. Now resource is anything which is available in the environment and can be used to satisfy our needs can be considered as a resource. That means whichever thing is used to satisfy needs is a resource, but it need to fulfill three conditions. First, it is technologically accessible. It means we must have a technology to use it. Similarly, it must be economically feasible. That is, it is profitable for us. And third and important is it is culturally acceptable. So anything which is able to fulfill our needs and satisfy these three conditions, then we can call that something as a resource. Now, resources are not free gifts of nature. Human beings need to perform some activity to get the resource. Now, to get the resource, there is some interdependent relationship between nature, technology, and institutions. Now, these three cannot interact on their own. Therefore, it is the human beings which interact with the nature with the help of technology and they create institutions. And all this is done to accelerate their economic development. Next, we will see very important topic, that is classification of resource. As you can see this chart, we can classify resource mainly in two ways: natural and human resource. Now, natural resource can be further classified into renewable and non-renewable. Now, renewable can be further classified into continuous or flow, which includes something like wind, water, etc., and biological. Now, in biological resource, we can further classify them into natural vegetation, that is forest and wildlife. Now, coming to non-renewable resource, they can be further classified into recyclable and non-recyclable. Now, coming to human resource can be further classified into structure and institutions as well as quantity and quality. So this is how we can classify the resource. But in our chapter we have only four types of resources. We will see them one by one. First, on the basis of origin, we have two resources, biotic and abiotic resource. Remember, it is abiotic, not abiotic. Now, biotic resources are those resources which are obtained from biosphere. That means they have life. You can see the following examples. And abiotic means which are composed of non-living things. You know very well which are the non-living things. That is the first basis. So these are a few pictures depicting biotic and abiotic resource. Now, next basis is on the basis of exhaustibility. On the basis of exhaustibility, we have renewable and non-renewable resource. So we will see them. Now, renewable resource are those resources which are renewed or replenished or reproduced by some physical, chemical or mechanical processes. So they can be renewed, reproduced or replenished by physical, chemical or mechanical process like solar energy, wind energy, etc. And renewable resource are further classified as replenishable resource. Now, coming to non-renewable resource, they are formed after a long geological period of time. That is, they take millions of years for formation. Example, minerals, fossil fuels, etc. And these can be further classified into recyclable and non-recyclable. Recyclable means we can use again and again. That is, they can be reused, like some metals, scrap metals. Non-renewable cannot be reused again, like fossil fuels, which includes coal, petroleum, natural gas, etc. Now, next basis is, so these are examples of renewable resource. Now, third and most important basis is ownership. So on the basis of ownership, we have individual, community, national and international resources. So we'll see them one by one. First, individual resource. Those resources which are owned privately by individuals, that is, it is their own resource. Like farmers, they own the land which is given by government. by paying some revenue. Similarly, plantations, pasture lands, ponds, water in the fells, etc. Similarly, plots, houses, and other property like vehicles, etc., owned by the people are considered as individual resource. Next, in ownership is community resource. These resources are accessible to members of the community. For example, village common. Earlier, every village has a common area which was called as village common, and this was used for grazing or burying or ponds, etc. Similarly, public parks, picnic spots, playgrounds in the urban areas. Playgrounds are nothing but like stadium. So these are considered as community resource. These are owned by particular people, but these are accessible to various people. Next and most important is national resource. In fact, every resource belongs to a nation. Therefore, almost each and every resource is a national resource, which includes roads, railways, canals, minerals, water resource, forests, wildlife, land within the political boundary of a country. Similarly, territorial waters. Territorial water is the oceanic area up to 12 nautical miles from the coast of that country. So remember, territorial water is oceanic area up to 12 nautical miles from the coast of a country. That is called as territorial water. And because every resource belongs to a nation, government has a legal pass to acquire private property even for public good. For example, roads, railways, dams, canals, etc. are constructed in the lands owned by the private individuals. In ownership, last is international resource. There are some resources which are regulated by international institutions. For example, the oceanic area beyond 200 nautical miles. Student, remember, it is not kilometer, nautical miles. That is also called as exclusive economic zone. Belongs to open sea. That is international sea. And no individual country can use these resources without concurrence, that is permission of international institutions. For example, India has obtained the right to mine manganese nodules from the bed of Indian Ocean, which is beyond our exclusive economic zone. So these are examples of resources on the basis of ownership. Now last is on the basis of development. On the basis of development, we have four types of resource. We'll see one by one. First, potential resource. These resources are found in a particular region. So you can underline when you go through it, particular region, but not properly utilized. For example, wind energy, solar energy are available in Gujarat and Rajasthan, but not utilized properly. Next is developed resource. So these resources are normal resources which have been surveyed, and we have determined their utilization for on the basis of quality as well as quantity. That is, we know quality as well as quantity of these resources for utilization. And development of these resources depend on technology and level of feasibility, that is profitability. This includes all the normal resources like water resource, forest, regular minerals like coal, mineral oil, petroleum, natural gas, etc. Now, third and most important is stock. Now, stock is, the materials which are found in the environment can be used for satisfying human needs. But these materials do not have appropriate technology to access or use them. They are called as stock. For example, water is a compound of two inflammable gases like hydrogen and oxygen, and these are rich sources of energy. But at present, we don't have the technical know-how or technology to use water as a source of energy. Therefore, water as a source of energy is a stock. So, stock is very important question with the example of water. And last is reserves. Reserve is subset of stock. It is opposite of stock. In stock, we know we can use the material, but we don't have the technology. Wherein reserve, with the help of the existing technology, we can use the resource, but their use has not yet been started. This includes water in the rivers can be used for generating electricity, but we are using only for a limited extent. Similarly, water in the dam can be considered as reserve, and these resources may be useful for future generation. That means we have reserved them for future generation. Hence, they are called as reserves. So, this is a small classification of the various resources. All these are very important. Now, remember, student, what we think is resources are free gifts of nature, and because we have thought them as free gifts of nature, we have used them indiscriminately, that is carelessly, and this careless use of resource created some problems, which includes resources are getting depleted, like forest. Similarly, most of the resources are accumulated in the hands of only few people, and because of this accumulation, society is divided into two groups, rich and poor, that is haves and have nots. And apart from that, global crisis or ecological crisis like global warming, ozone layer depletion, environmental degradation, etc. These are some problems related to indiscriminate use of resource. Now, can we make proper use of resource? Of course, yes. To make proper use of resource, we have a new concept called as sustainable development. So, sustainable development means economic development definitely should take place, but it should not cause any damage to the environment. At the same time, we must take care of the needs of the future generation. So, sustainable development should definitely take place, but here we should take 2 points in mind. One, no damage to environment, and we should not compromise with the needs of future generation. So, this is a new concept of sustainable development. In your box item, you have first Earth Summit at Rio de Janeiro, and then Agenda 21. So, these two topics you can read by your own and make out your own points. Now, how to solve the problem of indiscriminate use of resource? One, of course, we have discussed the sustainable development. Apart from that, we have resource planning. So, resource planning is very important to make proper use of resources. And India is one such country where resource planning is being done on a large scale. Resource planning in India includes 3 steps. First, identification and listing of resource, which includes first surveying, we should survey the resource. Then mapping, that means we should know which resources are found in which area. Then we should measure the quality and quantity of the resource. Second, planning for exploitation, that is we make plan to use the resource. Therefore, we should develop or evolve a planned structure, that is some institution to make plan, along with suitable technology, skills and institutions, so that we can implement those plans. And third, we make plans not only for development of the country but also for development of the resource. So these two plans should match with each other. That is, what two things should match with each other? Resource development plans and overall national development plans. So student, this is very important question. The 3 stages in resource planning in India. And fortunately, India has been making these plans right from the very first 5-year plan. Now we will see why resource planning is very important in a country like India. Now India is diverse with respect to resources. For example, some resources, certain areas are rich in certain resource but poor in other resource. For example, Rajasthan is poor in water resource but rich in solar and wind energy. Similarly, some regions are self-sufficient with respect to particular resources. For example, Madhya Pradesh is very rich in various minerals, but Ladakh is poor in resources. Apart from that, we need to avoid the wastage of resources. Even for that purpose, we require resource planning. And we need to reduce the environment pollution also. And we need to avoid or prevent overexploitation of resource. For these reasons, resource planning is very important in our country. Again, a very important question. Now, lastly, how to conserve the resource? Because for survival, resources are very important. We need to concentrate on the conservation of resource. So first we will see what is the meaning of resource conservation. Now, planned use of resources to meet the present needs and store some part for future generation is also called as resource conservation. That means we should use and also keep something for the future generation. So when we focus on these 2 points, then it is called as resource conservation. Now, why resource conservation is necessary, we will see. Many of the resources that we use are non-renewable, like the fossil fuels, the metal we use, etc. And if you don't conserve them, they may not last for longer period of time. So future generation may not have it. Similarly, conservation of resource help us to reduce the wastage and does help in economic progress. And also resource conservation helps to protect the environment. And many leaders like Mahatma Gandhi gave some ideas about conservation of resource. So these are some ideas of Mahatma Gandhi about conservation of resource. According to Mahatma Gandhi, there is enough for everybody's need, but not for greed. And greedy and selfish nature of the individuals and exploitative nature, that is overuse due to modern technology, are the main reasons for resource depletion. Similarly, Mahatma Gandhi was against overproduction, that is mass production. That is, he did not want production by machines, but wanted to replace by production by masses. That is, he wanted the people to produce more goods than machines. So these are few ideas about conservation of resources. Next, as specific examples, we have specific example of resource. We have land as well as soil. Now land is very important resource. Land supports human life, wildlife, plant life. Especially it supports economic activities like transportation, communication, industries, etc. So land is a very important resource. But as we have discussed earlier, we thought land as a free gift of nature. Therefore, we have used land indiscriminately, and this has caused land degradation. Now, the main cause of land degradation is due to soil erosion caused by running water as well as wind. Similarly, dumping of waste materials from mining centers and industrial units. Similarly, over irrigation, especially in states like Punjab and Haryana. Due to over irrigation, the land has become saline and alkaline. Similarly, some states like Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, etc. have been overgrazing. So overgrazing is also one main cause of land degradation. And of course, cutting of forest, that is deforestation. Similarly, wastewater is released from industries which pollute land, water, etc. And especially mining process like grinding of limestone for cement industry, or one mineral called as calcite and soapstone, these are grinded for ceramic industry. So when these things are grinded, because of less weight, they create lot of dust, and this dust is deposited in neighboring land, and it doesn't allow the water to percolate into the underground, and thus it causes land degradation. Now, what steps we can take to conserve the land? First, we should prevent soil erosion by afforestation, control on grazing. Similarly, we should follow some practice like terrace farming in the hilly areas. Similarly, we should develop shelter belts so that we can stabilize the movement of sand dunes and that prevent land degradation, especially in deserts. Similarly, mining activities should be controlled. We should carry mining only up to what we require. And we can adopt new technologies in mining so that we can reduce the wastages. Industrial waste. Now, students, we cannot completely stop the industries. And when we operate the industries, definitely some waste is generated, especially chemicals and wastewater is generated. So these should be properly treated, and then we should remove the harmful substances, and then we should release these effluents into water bodies like rivers. Similarly, urban wastage should be used for production of biogas and biomanure, and we should avoid over irrigation. For that, we should develop new methods of irrigation. So these are some methods for conservation of land. Next, we will see a very important resource, soil. Now, what is soil we will see. The uppermost layer of the earth's crust, which is loose, broken, and useful for plants, is called as soil. This already you have studied in your previous classes. Now, soil consists of various things like mineral matter like sand, clay, organic matter like humus, bacteria, various worms, etc. And mainly, soil is formed by the process of weathering, that is, breaking of the rocks. And because of the weathering of loose rock materials, a layer is formed on the land surface. And if this layer is undisturbed for a long period of time, chemical, physical, and organic changes take place. And all these factors lead to the formation of soil. So, student, this is a very important question. What are the factors for the formation of soil? So, these are few factors like climate, topography, that is type of land. Similarly, parent rock. Soil is actually the powder of rocks, so parent rock is also very important. Similarly, vegetation, that is plant life, also plays very important role in the formation of soil. So these four factors are very important for formation of soil. Then we'll come to very important topic of this chapter, that is types of soil. So there are six types of soil, as you can see here. We'll see one by one. First, most important soil is alluvial soil. So alluvial soil is most fertile, most widespread, that is mostly found in our country. And how it is formed? Due to deposition of fine silt called alluvium brought by the rivers. And it is found in entire northern plain, right from Punjab to West Bengal. Similarly, plains of Gujarat, Rajasthan, and east and west coastal plains. Now, this soil consists of sand, silt, and clay in various proportion. So, this is the texture of the soil. So, texture of alluvial soil consists of sand, silt, and clay. And we can divide this soil into khadar and bhangar. This topic already you saw last year. And every soil consists of some nutrients or chemicals like potash, phosphoric acid, and lime. So, this soil is very fertile, and thus it is very important for the growth of crops like rice, sugarcane, wheat, pulses, etc. And this is the difference between khadar and bhangar. You have studied this last year, so you can go through by it for yourself. Then we'll come to next important soil, which is black soil. Now, black soil is also called as rigar soil. So, rigar means cotton. That means this soil is very important for the cultivation of cotton. Therefore, it is also called as black cotton soil. Now, most of the Deccan Plateau, last you saw Deccan Tract, this is occupied by black soil. Now, this soil is highly clay in nature. That is, it consists of very fine particles. Therefore, it has very high water retaining capacity. That means it has very high water holding capacity. And therefore, this soil is sticky when it is wet. But when it is dry, it develops cracks. That is, it shrinks and develop cracks. And self-plowing, therefore, as it develops crack, so this soil is able to plow itself. That is the most important characteristic of this soil. Now, as I said, every soil is rich in certain chemicals. This soil is rich in iron, lime, calcium, potassium, aluminium, magnesium, etc. But it is deficient in nitrogen, phosphorus, and some organic material. Therefore, it is second to alluvial soil in fertility. Now, color can be deep black, that is dark black, to light black, and it is mainly found in Deccan Tract. Now, in textbook you can see what is Deccan Tract, and this Deccan Tract consists of Maharashtra, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, etc. Now, third type of soil is red soil. Now, red soil is mostly found in low rainfall areas, and its most important characteristic is it is porous and friable structure. It doesn't consist of important nutrients like lime or concur, which consists of calcium carbonate. Similarly, it is also deficient in phosphate, manganese, nitrogen, humus, potash, etc. Hence, it is a very poor soil in nutrients. Now, color of the soil is red. This is due to diffusion of iron in crystalline metamorphic rocks. And the lower layer is reddish yellow or yellow. Texture, that is size of the particle, it is sandy or clay or loamy in nature. Now few crops can be grown like wheat, cotton, pulses, tobacco, oil seeds, etc. can be grown in this soil, and it is found in the state like Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Orissa, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, etc. Now next soil is laterite soil. Now the name laterite is derived from Latin word later, which means brick, and it becomes soft when it is wet and hard when it is dry. Now it is found in those areas which have very high temperature as well as very high rainfall. Now due to high rainfall, it undergoes leaching, that is, top layer is removed along with the nutrients, and due to high temperature, decomposes like bacteria are destroyed. So it doesn't have important organic material called as humus. But it is rich in iron and aluminium, but deficient in other nutrients like nitrogen, potash, lime, etc. Now color of the soil is red due to iron oxide. Now various crops can be grown like sugarcane, cashew nuts, or tea, coffee, or crops like ragi, etc. And it is mostly found in the states of Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh, Orissa, Assam, etc. Now in recent board exam, this question was asked, which crops are grown in the laterite soil? So you need to remember these crops. Now next is arid soil. Now arid soil is found in arid, that is dry and semi-dry conditions, and mostly formed due to the wind activities. And because of high temperature, it has very high salt content, and because of high temperature, it lacks moisture as well as humus. Concur or impure calcium carbonate content is very high in this soil, and it doesn't allow the water to percolate. Now texture, that is, the size of particle is sandy, color is red to brown, and it is mostly found in the western part of Rajasthan where we have the Thar desert. Next is, and the last is forest soil. Now forest soil is formed in forest areas where there is sufficient rainfall and in the mountainous and hilly areas. This soil vary in structure as well as texture depending upon the mountain environment. For example, in the valley sides it is loamy and silty, and upper parts of the slope it is coarse grain, that is big particles. But in snow-bound areas of Himalayas, they have undergone denudation, and therefore this is acidic with low humus. This soil is found in lower valleys of Himalayas, and what is found in lower part of Himalayas, it is somewhat fertile in nature. Now, as soil is an important resource, we have been making use of soil excessively, causing one big problem to soil called as soil erosion. First, we will see what is the meaning of soil erosion. Removal of top layer of the soil when it moves from one place to other place by natural agencies is called as soil erosion. And the natural agencies which cause soil erosion are mainly running water and wind. And there are human causes also like deforestation, overgrazing, improper methods of agriculture. So these are all natural and human cause of soil erosion. Now there are various types of erosion like gully erosion, sheet erosion, etc. Now gully erosion is caused when rainwater moves down on an uneven land area and removes the top layer of the soil and form deep channels called as gullies. Now this land which has gullies is not at all suitable for cultivation, therefore it is called as bad land. So these are the channels formed due to the removal of top layer of the soil, these are gullies. Next is sheet erosion. Now sometimes water flows in the sloping areas like a sheet and removes the top layer of the soil. So this is called as sheet erosion. Now, because soil is very important resource, we need to conserve the soil. Now soil in conservation includes few steps. First, we should not plow in the mountainous areas, And if at all we want to plow, we need to follow few techniques. One is contour plowing. So we need to draw the contour lines, and plowing should be done along that contour lines. This will reduce the flow of water and thus it avoids soil erosion. Next is terrace farming. We should cut steps along the slopes, making terrace. Again, this prevent the flow of water and thus it stops soil erosion. Third is strip cropping. In large fields, we divide strips, and strips of grass are grown between two layers of crops. As you can see, in the middle there is a layer of grass, and either side there is a layer of crop. Now this reduces the impact of wind. And lastly, we should plant shelter belts. Planting shelter belts reduce the flow of wind and thus it prevents the soil erosion. So these are 4 steps in preventing the soil erosion. So this is all about the first chapter of geography, resource and development. I request the students to go through the land as a resource, mainly uses of land and land utilization. And in that we have 2 pie charts about land utilization. You can compare that and you can make a table of this conservation. Thank you very much.